Well, it's my great pleasure now to welcome Lindsay Wegener, who's the Executive Director of PeakCare in Queensland. My name's Julie McCrossin, and I'm broadcasting to you today on Aboriginal land, the land of the Kaurna people. And Lindsay and I are both part of a forum that's all about improving child protection and family support, and what are the key critical actions that really make a difference for children and families. And we're just interested to hear what's happening in Queensland. In a moment, I want to come to the nature of your relationship with government, both the statutory department and government itself. But first of all, the partnership with First Nations people, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. You've got some particular work happening there in Queensland. Just in a nutshell, what are you doing to try to give, even the verb I've used there is problematic, isn't it? But to try and enable Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people to take care and responsibility for their own children and their own families. What's happening in Queensland?
Well, one of the things where Queensland has a distinct advantage over South Australia, but I understand that South Australia is soon to have that as well, is that we have a Queensland Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Child Protection Peak. And QATSIP it's how the name it most often goes by. And PeakCare and QATSIP has a very sound and strong alliance. And what that means is that we're extremely clear about what PeakCare will speak to. We do not have cultural authority to speak on behalf of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples and communities. We don't have that cultural authority. That we will not speak to the hopes and aspirations of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander children and families and communities. That's really the job of QATSIP to do that. But we have a very, very real responsibility to speak out about racist behaviour, about the responsibilities held by mainstream organisations to ensure that that what they do is culturally safe and sound. And our values are very much around supporting self-determination. Well, to support self-determination, that means you must defer to the opinion of Aboriginal and First Nations peoples themselves if you are to believe in self-determination.
Let's come to this question of the relationship with government. And by government, I mean both the statutory Community Services Department, but also the government of the day, the executive. You feel you've got a strong, respectful relationship with government, that it takes a long time to develop trust, but you've got it, and that you present sound arguments with research to back it up and balanced independent commentary. Now, I think there's a hunger in South Australia to be able to say the same things. 2 or 3 steps you've been taking over the years as the CEO of PeakCare that have enabled you to feel you're in a partnership?
I think one of the things that was said to me once by a minister, and not of the current Labor government, but an LNP government, was, well, I know you're honest, and therefore I'll listen to you because I know you're honest. And so I think that really is at the heart of it, that as a peak body, we're not a union. There's no vested interest we have apart from ensuring that the best possible range of services, the most effective service delivery is being achieved for children and young people. We will be incredibly open with all political parties. We don't say one thing to one and a different thing to another. That we often will be reported in the media and to them as saying bipartisan, the safety and wellbeing of children means that we need bipartisan approaches, that they should never become a political football. So we talk a lot about bipartisanship. We're apolitical. I think that we're at a point where they respect our opinion.
Hey, could I just ask you, you have protocols around when and how you talk to the media. You have some sort of protocols. Can you just quickly tell us about that?
Well, essentially that if the media approach us or we approach media, we tell them exactly what we're going to be saying, and we tell them what happened during the interview. So they're not.
You say tell them, who do you tell?
The minister, quite often the minister herself or members of her staff, and we similarly tell the department. I mean, one of the things that we're very clear about is that governments and government departments are not synonymous. They're different entities. And I think quite often it's that we're a value to them. Often they will refer media to us because they know we're going to give balanced and fair commentary. And sometimes that means we're strongly advocating for and supporting something that is on the government's agenda that we know that they're going to have difficulty in selling that to the public or dealing with it. So we're often on the side of government. Having said that, I guess the last 3 lots of legislative amendments they put through, we've opposed, and we were fairly public about our opposition to that. But at the same time, I think the government respected our concerns that we had and in part accommodated some of our concerns, but not as much as we would want.
I've just got 2 or 3 things I want to ask you if we could just go through them in a reasonably concise way. And one of the topics here in South Australia is, should the age at which children leave care go up to 21? It has in Victoria. What is the age currently in Queensland, and what's your thoughts and plans there?
It's not an easy answer. It's hard to give a simple answer. Basically, it's 19 if children have been living in foster care or kinship care, 18 if they've been living in residential care or some other place of abode. So there's a different answer for the age groups. What the government would also say is that they have provision to provide support through various aftercare services called Next Steps Plus and so on that provide a range of additional supports to young people up to the age of 21, in some instances up to 25. But it's a bit discretionary. So some of the things that we're certainly engaged in talking to the government about are some American policies at the moment that are called no strings attached. So for older young people leaving care, there is support provided in financial terms for every child that's left care into their early adulthood with no strings attached. So it does not matter where you've been living or what your circumstances have been. It's no strings attached. This support will be provided in the same way that families will support their children during early adulthood years as well.
Look, our time is up, Lindsay, but I cannot let you go without just asking you to tell me the hope and healing framework, this issue of education and development of our workforce. Just what have you done and what's happening next with the hope and healing framework?
Okay, it goes back to an inquiry that was held, child protection inquiry that was held in Queensland a few years ago. We were contracted by the government department to develop a trauma-informed framework for residential care, which we did. They then contracted us to develop a training program for residential care workers, which was a compulsory training program and was accompanied by the introduction of a minimum level of qualification for residential care workers. So that's now been operating since 2018, and we've trained over 12,000 residential care workers in the state. That was extended recently to develop a trauma-informed framework for foster care, and we've just done a soft launch of an e-learning training program for foster carers and are about to formalise that for all foster care services in Queensland within the next month or so. Getting extremely positive feedback from carers who've completed the training with us. So we're very proud of it. It's a training program that's incredibly user-friendly, scenario-based. They find it really helpful. And we won an award for it, a national award for the residential care one. So we think the foster care one is probably even better. So we're very excited about it. We see a lot of potential for it.
Thank you, Lindsay, so much for your time. Nothing gives me greater pleasure than to share examples of very good work. And so I had to have hope and healing. Even the title is enough, isn't it, to
it's a good
bring you in. But thank you for being part of our forum in May 2022 in South Australia. You're going to be there physically as well, but thank you for being online as well. This is Steph Sign clapping. Thank you.
Thank you.